Let's speak now to one of the community leaders in Soweto, Koketso Poho, who joins us for an update. A very good evening to you, Koketso. Thank you so much for your time. And, I don't know if you were able to hear that story we just played previously, and that was about a victim, a 30-year-old teacher, Baratile Sekwalane, who was basically shot while she was in an Uber on her way to a friend's home. And if you could just take us back, okay, so just on the lived experience of Sowetans, people living in Soweto who are trying to get around using e-hailing services and what that experience is like.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us. Look, the issue of Baratile is just one in many. The fact of the matter is that in Soweto, when you try to take a Bolt home because you have plastics full of groceries, you are harassed by taxi operators, and it's not only taxi operators that are being harassed, but also civilians that are trying to have an alternative mode of transport that delivers them to their residences. The situation here is actually reflective of the government's unwillingness to regulate this situation. This is certainly not the first time where a car was set alight, and unfortunately this time, people like Baratile have had to get injured. People like Usiana Mvelase have had to lose their lives because of an unwillingness of the government, which is essentially driving a wedge between e-hailing car operators and taxi operators and the associations, and inability to regulate this situation, regardless of the community raising these concerns about their safety. When you go to Maponya Mall in a Bolt, you can be stopped at any time. If you are female, they ask you, are you the girlfriend of this guy? Kiss him. If you are the girlfriend of this guy. People go through unbelievable situations to prove themselves and to justify themselves against bullies that have decided to play a territorial game and fight for roads and fight for a monopoly of transporting people to the mall. The reality is that the center management also does not care. The center management is only concerned with profit and does not care about the safety and wellness of the citizens that live in the surrounding areas. And this situation is not only limited to Maponya Mall, Jabulani Mall as well, the Fire Mall as well, there's the mall in Shawela, the mall in Dobsonville. E-hailing drivers, it's a known fact they are not allowed to operate freely and they are bullied. And these people will come and say, no, we don't know anything about what has happened. But 3 days later, because there's no regulation coming from government and Gauteng legislature or the MEC's office for roads and transport in Gauteng, it's a situation which goes unregulated.
And Koketso, the regulation has been a very big theme that has come up once again, but it always seems to come up. As you mentioned before, this isn't the first time that we're seeing such violence and flare-ups as well happening when it comes to the taxis and the e-hailing drivers as well. Now, what do you make of government's stance? You said, it shows their unwillingness to act about this because this has been a long time coming. We've heard from the Gauteng Transport MEC, who also spoke tough on this as well, saying that they condemn the violence, that this is senseless, it's unacceptable. We've also heard from the Minister of Transport, Barbara Creasy herself. Hearing from government taking on a hard stance in terms of vocalizing, what do you make of that? Or do you need more than just condemnation, but more action?
So what the government is doing is actually talking left and walking right. Because the fact of the matter is that this situation, and Maponya Mall as a case in point, this situation is not transparent for the first time. But what do we have? This is what community was asking this morning. And unfortunately, they were met with police because the MEC have sent police to protect the mall and protect the taxi operators against the rage of the community, which is concerned for its safety. There's nothing in black and white. I certainly can say for sure that there is a committee that is in the legislature of Gauteng, which the MEC can take a regulation, draft regulation, and say, this is what we're trying to regulate. We're trying, in effect, to bring safety and security to the civilians, but not only to the civilians, but peace amongst taxi associations. But it seems as if the MEC is unwilling it always has to be a car must burn. And unfortunately, the price that has been paid this time is too high. It's a human life. Someone came from KZN trying to make a living. They have not even been on the streets for 2 weeks. They have not been e-hailing for 2 weeks, and they've lost their life. The community is saying, don't open the mall. Bring a solution. Bring a tangible. We're not fighting anyone. They didn't ban any mall. They didn't ban any property. They said, they stood in front of the mall and barricaded and say, unless there is safety and security, we are not going to feel safe, because this can happen to anyone. If you're driving a Toyota Etios or a Nissan Almera and driving around those sides of a mall, you can easily be stopped just going with your children to the mall and asked to prove if these are your children. The situation is ungovernable. Soweto is becoming a war zone, and our malls have become an area where people of taxi association come and exchange power dynamics at the expense of ordinary civilians. The reality is that civilians are unable to choose their preferred mode of transport because this lack of regulation, and there is no law and order. And it can't be that only when there is a situation, the MEC must now react. We want preemptive planning. We want a sustainable solution. And this is all the community has been saying.
Yeah. And you know, Koketso, you're rightfully calling for safety measures as well. As we know, Maponya Mall has been reopened. What's the situation like, and how have residents received that? Because as you said now, you would prefer that it remains closed until the situation and there is a solution when it comes to safety.
The community is only saying that the mall must remain closed. And it's unfortunate that they were provoked today with the presence of police, and there is no solution still. It seems as if the MEC and the center management of Maponya Mall is only concerned about profits that would be lost in the event of them closing. They don't care about that a black life has been lost and no consequence, and black lives have been injured and fighting against each other, and there has been no consequence. We are not confident that a case has been opened, and we know that no one will be arrested. We know that there will not be a consequence for killing a black person and black-on-black violence going without any intervention from the government. All that matters to them is that these taxi associations are paying and they are making revenue as Gauteng Provincial Legislature. All they care is that people come and work in those malls, and people come and buy in those malls. They don't care what happens in between. And it seems as if they've chosen the side of profit and greed at the expense of a community which is concerned. Anyone's child can die in a situation like this. Anyone's father, anyone's brother, anyone's mother can die in a situation like this. And we cannot continue to live as if life is normal when our malls have been turned into a war zone. This is not the first incident where taxi violence has put the danger of an ordinary citizen in danger. A person like Baratile, who was not even going to the mall, just visiting a friend in Klipspruit, you can fall victim to such because our government is unwilling to act. Our government only wants to talk in one direction but act in a way that is diametrically opposed to what they've said. Hasn't there been any draft regulation? We're not even saying a regulation which is adopted and passed. A draft regulation. There is no willingness from the government to act and at least intervene and have a medium-term plan to say, how are we going to regulate this situation? All we see is them defending the mall, and they are bringing of police today. As the community, we feel like was to protect the mall and to protect the taxi operators, which have murdered someone. They have came to provoke the community. And we are not happy with the response. If anything, the MEC wants bloodshed, because if those communities which feel unsafe can decide to take protest action and bring matters into their own hands, what is going to happen? The police are going to shoot at them. She's not bringing a solution, she's bringing more bloodshed.
And, you know, you also mentioned other malls as well, that, of course, it's not just limited to Maponya Mall. This is a problem across Soweto, from Ndofaya Mall, Jabulani Mall, Dobsonville Shopping Center, etc. What is the situation like there? Because we're seeing a heavy police presence at Maponya Mall because of what just transpired. But this situation is also, as you're mentioning, happening at other malls too. Are there police also there making sure that such incidents don't continue to happen?
This is why we feel like this is disingenuous because it's only at Maponya Mall and only because of this situation. If you try and take an Uber to Dobsonville Mall, you must be dropped off outside of the mall. And if you want to request, you must walk out of the mall with your plastics and go to an area where Uber drivers can pick you up. And this is the same situation in the Fire Mall, and this is the same situation at Protea Glen Mall, and this is the same situation at Jabulani Mall, and all these other malls, not only in Soweto. It's an unregulated situation all over Johannesburg, all over Gauteng. And the MEC is only concerned about profits and having a good relationship with the taxi association, but not putting a decisive regulation and a law to enforce and make sure that ordinary citizens are protected, but also e-hailing drivers are protected and taxi drivers are protected, because a taxi banned yesterday, for instance. 2 e-hailing cars banned yesterday. Our township is becoming a war zone because of ministers and MECs, members of the executive that have become complacent. It's not their family member which is affected, and this is why their response is so weak. It's not someone they know personally or a child of a friend. It's a mere black person, and it's inconsequential to them. But we are unhappy with this response, and we would not be surprised if the community responds in the way that it did 2 days ago by saying, we're going to close this mall because there is no solution. It means any one of us can die at any time. They are justified to feel so.
And just in closing, Koketso, just mentioning, piggybacking off what you just mentioned now, the residents and community members being so upset as well. The mall has reopened, so there is a possibility that there could be more protests and where the community insists that the mall should be closed again.
Look, there are efforts to mobilize and conscientize people around because this situation has sparked widespread interest from across the whole Soweto. So we would not be surprised to see more protest action because everyone is unhappy. And this can happen to anyone. Everyone is unhappy with the response that the MEC have given us. You can't come and sit in a meeting with the community and you come and tell us that, no, this person isn't from Gauteng, they're going to be buried in KZN, and we're assisting the family. It's not only the family that was affected. People are traumatized. People like Baratile were only going to a friend. They were not even going to the mall. And there is no intervention that sort of protects people like that. The community is up in arms and they are raging, and the response is only provoking them to more protest action. The next thing, people will be burning stuff and the MEC will be acting starstruck and surprised as if they did not know that this kind of a response would come. We want a sustainable solution. You can't bring police to barricade. And this is what the government of the ANC does. They put a wedge in between community members. And we have to find ourselves fighting over the absence of a law, the absence of a regulation. It's the very same thing that they do with the foreign police. They are driving a wedge between members of the community. And now the absence of regulation on e-hailing drivers and taxi operators is also driving a wedge, because why are they not regulating it?
Yeah. Look, a dire situation indeed. And as you mentioned, Koketso, sustainable solutions are needed. Thank you so much for your time and just sharing your insights with us. We will be keeping a close eye on that situation as it unfolds.